Previously on Meerkat Manor, Flower discovered the Whiskers group had expanded by 8. Surprisingly, she accepted all of the new offspring into the family. And fearful of predators at the breeding burrow, Yossarian tried to move the 8 helpless pups to a new one. But things began to spiral out of control. Meet the Whiskers. Flower, the leader of the group. Zaphod, her partner. Yossarian, with some social problems. Mozart, the caring one. Tosca, the rebellious one. Courageous little Shakespeare. And the naughty kids. Welcome to Meerkat Manor. Meerkat Manor is a 3-square-mile patch of the Kalahari Desert in South Africa. It's home to a growing group of 37 meerkats called the Whiskers. Their leader is Flower. She's mom to the group. Wherever Flower is, Zaphod, the dominant male, isn't far behind. So we can follow her along. She wears a radio collar. The Whiskers are part of a 10-year study by Cambridge University biologists. And their every move is being monitored 24 hours a day by our cameras. Fearful of predators, and with the rest of the Whiskers out foraging, Yossarian has brought all the new pups above ground in hopes that the babysitters will pick them up and move to a new burrow with him. Flower is nearly a mile away leading today's foraging expedition. She's completely unaware of the drama back home. Her only concern on this hot day is getting enough food to keep her energy up. When she gets home, she'll be taking over from her trusty babysitters. They're meant to be looking after her 3-week-old pups, but Yossarian has thrown a wrench in the plans. The pups he brought above ground belong to Flower's wayward daughters, Tosca and Mozart, and now the babysitters aren't sure who they should be looking after. He's caused confusion and mayhem. But instead of helping, he just sits and waits while his tiny relatives are slowly baking in the heat. Somebody needs to act fast to avert a disaster. Life is quickly ebbing away from Tosca's helpless little pup. In the end, it's one of the teenagers, Pookie, who saves the day. Showing great maturity, he rescues the pup from certain death. Yossarian's still hoping they're moving, but instead, they carefully carry the infants one by one back to the burrow entrance. Where Mozart provides them all with a comforting drink of milk. She's not going to let the pups out of her sight, and she's certainly not going to let Yossarian anywhere near them again. None of the meerkats are ready to move burrows, and Yossarian is ignored. As the day draws to a close, Flower and the foraging group returns home and are horrified to discover the newborn pups above ground. While the boss has been away, someone's been up to no good. The question is, who's responsible for this chaos. Flower quickly asserts her dominance by marking the babysitters with scent glands on her chin. After laying down the law, Flower takes matters into her own hands and starts to gather the exhausted little pups, returning them to the safety of the burrow. Now that she's reminded the family who the boss really is, everyone follows her lead. Yossarian's first to rise. He's had a cold and lonely night. It's midwinter, and even in the Kalahari, temperatures overnight plummet below freezing. While his extended family has been snuggling together, he spent the night alone in an isolated sleeping chamber. As the rest of the gang cheerfully emerge from their cozy sleeping quarters, Flower is still unaware who caused yesterday's disruption. But as sulky Yossarian tries to slip away unnoticed, she may have her first clue. For Mitch, Cruz, Rocky, and Einstein, today is a big day. Flower's pups have an important mission, and everybody is on a heightened state of alert. It's their first foraging trip with the grown-ups. There's an air of nervous anticipation. This is uncharted territory for the youngsters, and they start with a quick march to the first learning zone. The boss is keeping a proud eye on her 4 young cadets, and there are lookouts posted, keeping the area under surveillance for enemy ambushes. Group leader and proud dad, Zaphod, is one of today's guards. Like all meerkats, he's got a special trick up his sleeve that helps him when he's on lookout. He has excellent long vision, like a pair of binoculars, and the dark patches around his eyes help reduce glare like a pair of sunglasses. This gives him a big helping hand when he's on sentry duty. It's his own built-in surveillance kit. That means he can see a predator, even if he's looking directly into the sun. Blissfully unaware of the surrounding dangers, the pups are getting their first taste of the wider world. Yossarian is keeping himself out of harm's way. Seems unfair because, after all, he was only trying to do his best for the pups, but his good deed has backfired and made him unwelcome. Shunned by the rest of the group, he spends the day foraging alone. Things are a lot more fun on the other side of town. The hunt begins with a watch-and-learn exercise. The adults find prey for the pups, and all they have to do is see how it's done. Einstein's decided he doesn't need lessons 1 through 3 and struggles with advanced ant catching. Pookie has brought Rocky a giant scorpion, but he's not scared. He opts for paw-to-claw combat. Huge pincers make big scorpions a real handful. This one doesn't have a deadly sting, but it isn't laying down without putting up some painful counterpunches. Pookie should have had more sense. Delivering dangerous fast food is no way to bring up the kids. But in meerkat society, it's the only way to teach them how to fend for themselves. Suddenly, proud Father Zaphod realizes that his brave little cadets are in real danger. He sounds the alarm. a giant eagle owl has the group under counter surveillance. The pups are terrified and huddle together. Zaphod's seen the owl, but the owl has equally good eyesight, especially when he's looking for dinner. The Whiskers are up against a ferocious enemy. At nearly 2 feet tall, this huge bird of prey is the biggest owl in Africa and could reach them in seconds. The main group forms a barrier, and behind them, the pups are shielded by Mozart, Tosca, and Shakespeare. The rest of the group bob their heads in an attempt to confuse the predator. Will the pups' first hunting trip be their last? Suddenly, the owl launches an assault, and at the same moment, a goshawk takes to the air. These birds of prey are territorial and will not tolerate each other. It's a blessing for the Whiskers, who grab the opportunity to make a run for it back to the burrow. It's been an exhausting first day's foraging for the pups. Back at the safety of the burrow, they can finally relax. Even the adults are dead on their feet. But tomorrow, they'll be doing it all over again. Next morning, Yossarian wakes up early after spending another chilly night on his own, this time in a nearby burrow. The first rains of the wet season started overnight, and this morning a giant Kalahari storm is brewing. At the main burrow, the rest of the Whiskers have come up to see what all the noise is about. Flower's pups have never experienced a storm. They're in for a rough ride. Yossarian knows what's coming and heads for cover. The pups head deep underground to get away from the terrifying thunder. They'll soon learn that the arrival of the desert storm is a blessing in disguise. When the rain arrives, the desert quickly springs to life. There's no time to be wasted, and the pups charge out, keen to start the next stage of their basic training course. There are extra sentries on duty this time. It's the second day of training, and the 4 sassy trainees try covert tactics. Mitch sees an opportunity and jumps in. Einstein cleverly tries to get on the right side of a grown-up and begs nicely for some food. boisterous Cruz tries pup pester power. And fearless Rocky opts for the smash and grab approach and is the only one who's successful. The adults don't mind the boisterous behavior. It's all part of growing up. Yossarian is miserable. He's been stuck out on his own in the first storm of the rainy season. He's made his way back to the burrow and has discovered that the bosses have gone out foraging. Once again, he's left alone with the babysitters. For some reason, he still seems dead set on moving burrows. One by one, he brings Mozart and Tosca's pups above ground again. It isn't long before the babysitters pick up the helpless bundles and make a perilous dash across the desert, led by Yossarian. It looks as though he might get his way after all, as long as he doesn't bump into Flower. Elsewhere, basic training is rudely interrupted by urgent alarm calls. The foragers quickly dash over to see what the commotion's about. It's not another ambush. It's the babysitters carrying a cargo of tiny pups. Yossarian sees what's coming and drops his precious little possession. He keeps himself well out of the boss's firing line, and deciding that discretion is the better part of valor, he slinks off again. Flower and Zaphod get involved immediately, stopping the babysitters and asserting their dominance. If there are going to be any den moves, they're the ones who are going to be in charge. Flower scent marks Pookie. Zaphod furiously scent marks the area. In the excitement, nobody notices the tiny pup that Yossarian abandoned, and she's left on her own. Once they've regained control, Flower and Zaphod lead the group away to a new den. But one tiny baby has been missed. As the Whiskers settle into their new home, Mozart realizes that one of her litter hasn't arrived with the rest of the group. She bravely sets out to find her forgotten pup. It's a long way. The old burrow is nearly a mile away, and trying to find a pup in this huge area of desert is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Her desperate search reveals nothing. She heads for home. On the first morning at the new burrow, there's lots of maintenance to be done. The den is one of 15 in their territory, and they haven't been here for more than a year. The housework keeps every meerkat busy, but Mozart's not joining in. One of her precious litter is gone. A mile away, close to the old burrow, her pup is lying dead in the sand, exactly where Yossarian left her. Next time on Meerkat Manor, can things go from bad to worse for Mozart? And the rest of the Whiskers get caught behind enemy lines, resulting in a vicious battle with the Lazuli.